Using innovative tactics and strategies for the time, Rome became one of history's greatest empires. In large part, this was due to the strategic expertise of its generals, who were the driving force behind such military success. They were responsible for expanding the Republic and the Empire through war, greatly increasing the number of Roman provinces. In this video, we will look at 10 of the greatest generals of the Roman army and their major achievements. Known as one of the greatest generals and strategists in history, Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus won many epic battles in the Second Punic War, 218 to 201 BC. But his greatest victory was certainly at the Battle of Zama, when he defeated the Carthaginian general Hannibal. Scipio traveled with his army to the village of Zama, the location of the Carthaginian troops' camp. In the battle that occurred on October 19, 202 BC, Scipio was outnumbered. He had a modest army and cavalry advantage, but Hannibal had veterans from the entire Italian campaign and 80 war elephants. The battle began when Hannibal used the elephants to tear apart the Roman front line. But Scipio was a good strategist and trained his soldiers to handle the animals. He organized his men into vertical columns with paths in the middle, set traps on the ground, and had them blow trumpets to scare the elephants away. Some elephants fell into the ground openings. Others were forced to turn back toward the Carthaginian soldiers. Hannibal's strategy failed, and after a bloody and time-consuming battle, the Romans won. After the defeat, the Carthaginian Senate signed a surrender agreement, ending a war that lasted almost 20 years. With the victory, Rome secured control of the western Mediterranean, began annexing the Iberian Peninsula, and established alliances in North Africa. Marius is considered responsible for several actions that had considerable influence on the transformation of Roman civilization from republic to empire. He allowed landless Romans to join the army. Before that, they were required to own property. At the same time, he changed the law so that Romans had to carry their own equipment. These became known as Marius's mules. He was also consul-elect 7 times, something unprecedented from 107 BC. However, the office became increasingly autocratic. The election had to do with granting emergency powers to fight invading hordes than with enforcing the constitution. Marius also distinguished himself as a shrewd general in several campaigns, especially in Africa and against German tribes. He defeated the Teutons as they advanced towards Italy. This tribe had engineered a 2-pronged attack together with the Germanic tribe, the Cimbri, from their positions in Gaul. He ambushed the hordes near the Alps and killed about 100,000 invaders. Despite being born poor, Sulla achieved a renowned position in the Roman army and was an essential piece in the victory of the Jugurthine War. Jugurtha, chief of the Numidians, had defied Roman decree when he invaded Numidia for his own royal family. Rome retaliated, defeating the leader and forcing him into exile in Mauritania. Sulla made a deal with Bocchus, king of Mauritania, who handed Jugurtha over to the Romans. The war ended without bloodshed, and for this, he was praised in the Senate. He then fought alongside Marius against the Cimbri and Teutonic invaders before taking political office. He was even consul after his efforts as a general during the Social War of 91 to 88 BC. Sulla became the first general to march on Rome in response to Marius, causing him to dismiss him from his position. Although several of his commanders refused to follow him, he forced Marius out of the city. However, the latter returned later and resumed power while Sulla was campaigning in Asia. In 82 BC, Sulla marched on Rome for the second time. The Senate appointed him dictator, giving him almost unlimited power. With a wealthy provincial background, Magnus, or Pompey the Great, was one of the main leaders in the last decades of the Roman Republic and Rome's most famous general during its twilight. He first entered politics when he used his troops to help Sulla liberate Rome from the Marians in 83 BC. With that victory, he received the epithet Teenage Butcher. Later, when pirates began threatening Rome's wheat supply in 67 BC, Pompey led 120,000 soldiers and 500 ships. Dividing the Mediterranean into 12 zones, he solved the problem in 3 months. Pompey subsequently formed an alliance known as the First Roman Triumvirate, along with Julius Caesar and Crassus. He married Caesar's daughter, Julia, to consolidate the alliance. However, when Julia died in 54 BC, Pompey and Caesar clashed, which degenerated into civil war. Caesar won and Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was killed. He is probably the most famous of all the Romans. As a politician, Caesar was the first emperor in everything but name. After the conquest of Gaul, which extended Rome's territory to the English Channel and the Rhine, he was the first Roman general to cross both channels. He built a bridge across the Rhine and led the first raid into Britannia. These conquests gave Caesar unparalleled military power, overshadowing even Pompey in the Senate. Pompey accused Caesar of insubordination and treason, ordering him to disband his army and return to Rome. Caesar refused. In 49 BC, he led his army into civil war and won. As dictator in Rome, Caesar revised the calendar, began building a basilica, and issued a new coin with his face on it. He was assassinated in 44 BC. His death precipitated the end of the Roman Republic. Considered by many the greatest Roman general, Mark Antony began his career as an officer in Egypt. Between 54 to 50 BC, he served Julius Caesar, becoming one of his most trusted officers. After Caesar's assassination, Antony became the leader of Rome. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, was his main rival. Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus formed the Second Triumvirate. Antony controlled the eastern half of the Roman Empire, and Octavian controlled most of the west. Antony married Octavian's sister, Octavia, but later had Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, as his mistress and wife. This caused him to lose his alliance with Rome. When war broke out between the two men, Antony was defeated. He and Cleopatra fled to Egypt, where they committed suicide. Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa. Since childhood, he had been a close friend of the first emperor, Octavian Augustus. Octavian and Agrippa were cavalry officers under Caesar at the Battle of Munda in 45 BC. After this quarrel and return to Rome, Caesar adopted Octavian as his legal heir. As the senatorial factions in Rome became increasingly aggressive, Caesar sent Octavian and Agrippa to study in Apollonia with the Macedonian legions. Agrippa earned a great reputation among the Macedonian legionaries and exhibited remarkable leadership skills. In Greece, he also worked with architecture, acquiring skills he would later use. In addition to being Octavian's chief military advisor, Agrippa was the general of the Roman Empire's ship fleet and responsible for building the Portus Julius harbor, joining the lakes Lucrine and Avernus. This allowed Rome's ships to be defended from the attack of Sextus Pompey. Agrippa and Octavian fought together in many land and sea battles throughout the empire, including Gaul, Germania, and probably Africa. Agrippa was known for his civic duties and military prowess. He was responsible for coordinating repairs and improvements to Rome's waterworks, renovating and extending the Aqua Marcia aqueduct, and hauling water to new parts of the city. When Augustus came to power, Agrippa worked alongside the emperor, repairing streets and buildings, also organizing festivals for the inhabitants of Rome. Later, Augustus paid an indirect compliment to Agrippa. "I found Rome a city of bricks, but I left it a city of marble." Germanicus was an important member of the Julio-Claudian dynasty and one of the most renowned generals of the early years of the Roman Empire, particularly for his campaigns in Germania. The son of Nero Claudius Drusus, the name Germanicus was added in 9 BC by his father after his victories in Germania. In 4 AD, Germanicus was adopted by his paternal uncle, Tiberius, Augustus's successor as emperor. He was appointed commander of the forces in Germania in 14 AD after Augustus's death. After suppressing a rebellion among the 8 legions he commanded, he marched to the Teutoburg forest, scene of a battle in 9 AD. At this site, he buried the bones of the fallen Roman soldiers before pursuing the Cherusci tribe, killing many in revenge. In 16 AD, he again proved his strategic skill when he encountered a German alliance at the Battle of the Weser River. Thousands of German troops were killed. The Romans had few casualties. Agricola was the general who conquered Britannia, not just parts, but all of it. He fought battles throughout the territory and, as eventual governor, built 1,300 miles of roads and at least 60 forts. After holding office in Rome, Emperor Vespasian sent Agricola to serve in Britannia as a commander. Later, while governor, he was ordered to conquer the entire island. Leading the army toward northern Scotland, Agricola built forts across much of the lowlands and introduced Romanization measures, encouraging communities to build towns on the Roman model and educating the children of the native nobility in the Roman manner. He also instructed the leader of the fleet in northern Britannia to sail up the northern coast, confirming it for the first time that Britannia was an island. Agricola was called to Britannia again in 85 AD. Rumor had it that the Emperor Domitian was jealous of his success. Also known as Drusus the Elder, he was a Roman politician and military commander. He was also responsible for the first major Roman campaigns beyond the Rhine River and the initiator of the conquest of Germania. He was the first Roman general to reach the Weser and Elbe rivers. Brother of Tiberius, who became emperor, Drusus was the son of the Emperor Augustus, although legally his father was Tiberius Claudius Nero. This rumor was fueled by Drusus, as it made him part of Augustus's direct lineage. Drusus's military prowess was evident during his incursions into Germania. In 12 BC, Drusus led a victorious campaign in the region and subdued the Sicambri. Later that year, he led a naval campaign against the Germanic tribes of the North Sea coast, conquering the Batavi and Frisians. He also defeated the Chauci near the mouth of the Weser. In 11 BC, Drusus conquered the Eusippides and the Marsi, extending Roman control to the upper Weser. In 9 BC, while consul, Drusus conquered the Mattiaci and later defeated the Marcomanni and the Cherusci. That same year, while returning after reaching the Elbe River, Drusus fell off his horse, was severely injured, and died a month later. He was only 29 years old. Drusus remained extremely popular with the legionnaires, who erected a monument known today as the Drusus Stone in his honor. His family received the name Germanicus as a hereditary honorary title, passed on to his eldest son. Did you enjoy learning more about the history of these great generals? If so, please like the video and subscribe to our channel.